Yep. Hi. So we can start.
Yeah, I think we're live. Yeah.
Yeah, we're live. Okay. Yep. Hi. Afternoon, everyone. Afternoon, Rishabh. So welcome once again to the FireSide Chat hosted by School of Design, Shashank University. I'll be introducing you people to Mr. Rishabh Wadhwa, our guest for today. So there are two ways of actually introducing him. Let's do the formal way first. Digital content creator, well known as Blessed Arch. So he's an architect by profession, but that is his academic qualification. But rather he builds content around architecture, design, which I think is rather amazing. And there are quite a few people who have taken this kind of a shift from the conventional architecture design. So we will be more talking more about this journey when we go ahead. The second angle of introduction is quite personal. I should say that. I'll take this chance to say it. He is a part of that batch back in 2013, who actually taught me how to teach. So, so an energetic batch of around 40 kids, whom others probably dare not to touch. And in one semester, I was teaching them like 4 subjects, like a class teacher. So difficult people to manage is what others say, but what really helped me to quite quickly learn in my academic career is what to teach, how to teach, and where to stop teaching. So that's what this whole batch, and especially Rishabh and the other people who are close to me, they have taught me during my academic journey. So I do share a special bond with everybody of them. So let's start with some of the questions. We will just have a conversation. There is no presentation. We'll just have a conversation around. So Rishabh's journey of Blessed Arch, it started probably during the hostel days, and I remember it was a Wednesday or a Thursday where you were probably late for the class, right? Because you're supposed to release a video and all that thing. So how has the journey been from that point of a time till now?
So before I come to that, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here and chat with you. And when you say, there was a time when you were teaching us 4 subjects, I think that was the time I also participated in a lot of competition because you used to sort of motivate us to do more, and then you could give us a little leeway in the studies area to sort of help us venture into that. So. Yeah, you were one of the best teachers we had in Manipur at the time. Coming to your question, yeah, I started it in 2014, which was I think my second year or like the end of it. I'm not completely sure, but yeah, at that time I remember which, and this is a funny thing. Whichever sub in I like till today I write a lot of my scripts. Like before I shoot anything, I write a lot about it, and I used to do it back then as well. It's just I used to do it in a notebook, and I used to do it in a lot of lectures that I didn't like, not yours. The lectures that sort of were boring to me, or were I had understood in the first go and the teacher was explaining again, I used to sit at the back and just keep writing my scripts. So that is how it started at that time. It was a lot more about just having random fun on YouTube and not really anything serious. I think till the end of architecture, when I was studying, it wasn't really something that I had considered as a serious thing. It was just me creating content, just cause, like people do nowadays with the advent of reels. It has become so accessible to make content that people just start making it just because it's easy to do. So Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi acts up sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
What part did you hear last?
So we are talking about. So you were talking about just making contents, just creating, just having fun. So nothing professional that you have been talking about right now. Uh, is it still creating a problem?
Yeah, I usually this doesn't happen. I'm extremely sorry.
Okay, never mind.
All right,
Okay.
so what part was I at last? Like, what part did you guys hear?
Um, the interesting part that heard was that you were just making content to just for your personal fun. It was
Yeah,
like putting content on the YouTube.
yeah. So it wasn't about anything serious per se. It was just me having some fun, and at that time, the content didn't even wasn't even about architecture. It was just me goofing around on YouTube, and over the years I kept doing it. Obviously, it stopped for a while when the projects came on, like the thesis came on. Whenever it got really tough, or when there were a lot of assignments, there were huge gaps when I did not post videos for a long while, and sort of that just continued, and that continued right up till even my internship. And it was in my intern, I still remember, and I tell everybody this story. The point I thought that I want to take it like a little seriously, this was the last day of my internship. I was doing internship at Studio Ardet in Chandigarh, and the last day is because three of us were going together. So uh, the principal architects sort of gave like a farewell party to us. They took us all out. Everybody gave speeches about everybody, and architect Prerna Kaleru is actually the one. She got up, and when she was speaking about me, she told me, Rishabh, you have a lot of energy, but you use it in a lot of different, you channel that energy into a lot of different areas. If you take all of that energy and put it into one area, you can really go ahead in that if you really want. And I think she meant architecture, like channeling it all and putting it into architecture. But then I think I took it, I was like, yeah, she's right. If I really want to sort of do something in the content creation space, which I was interested in a lot by that point, I was like, I need to give it a lot more of my energy. And so from the internship, when I'd come back home, and I talked about this story on my channel as well, is I talked to my father and asked him for a year. This is what the YouTuber Lily Singh had done. She was a YouTuber. Now she had a television show as well. She's coming in films, Netflix, all of that. But she had done this when she wanted to take YouTube seriously. Is she talked to her father? She's a Canadian YouTuber, and she talked to her father, and she said, "Just give me a year. If I can figure something out with this in a year, then I will see if I can take it forward. But if I can't, I would continue back on the journey." Her father wanted her to study, like to get a master's, and mine was similar. Either I'll get a master's or I'll get a job. And yeah, that started like a year of just creating so much content. And this time it was all architectural. This time in that year, this was 2018. So 2018 to May 2019, that was the time when that year was going on, and I was just creating a lot of content around architecture, and that is the point I'd taken it sort of a little seriously.
Okay, great. Then let's put it in this way. So what actually went wrong, or let's so to say right? Weren't your teachers and mentors and the office, they were not good enough to persuade you to pursue the most obvious path of getting practicing architecture after this 5 years of study?
So there are people that still try, just by the way.
Okay.
But as I said, I mean, I talk about this on my channel also, is the fact that it wasn't that I wasn't interested in pursuing architecture. I was. It was just I was interested in this more. And that is what sort of drove me to do this. I remember even our HOD, Madhura ma'am, for the longest time used to tell me, you can still practice architecture and do what you're doing. And nowadays she sort of whenever I release a video, she sort of messages me and says, "This is an amazing video," and she forwards it to everybody. And because again, it has evolved a lot from 2018 to what I do now. My content, how I script it, how I edit it, how I shoot it, um, all of that has evolved. Of course, it has been 4 years since then, 3 years since then, since 2019. So. Yeah, and people still do, but as I'm going forward, they can see how this is growing, and they're slowly starting to appreciate what I do and just do that and not anything else.
Um, then I was going through all the channel. Like, okay, I promise I will be seeing your videos quite often, regularly on the day they are released. But yeah, I was going through your channel. So there was a section which I found really interesting, and a lot of people have been viewing it, which was called as the reviews on portfolios, if I'm not wrong. So
Yeah.
where you call people, you call designers, and then you discuss portfolios with them. So what is exactly? How did this idea come in? Because portfolios are like the entry ticket to the world of internship and the job thing. So where did this idea of reviews on portfolios came in?
So portfolio reviews was just this idea because of my channel, I was able to connect with architects all over the world, and architects who have worked at some of the biggest firms in the world, the biggest name OMA, Zaha Hadid, Back Engels Group, and um, so I'd already created content with them, like separately talking about their journeys. But then I also thought to myself, I think it was just a matter of inspiration where I thought I have access to them and they are willing to sort of come and create content and sort of help spread more awareness within the architecture community. And I thought, why not get the community involved in this as well? And so the very first episode, which was with Viviano, who worked at OMA for 5 years and now has his own firm in Mexico, and I sort of messaged him, this is my idea, this is what I wanted to do, and he was on board. And so I had put out like, I had told people, so basically the concept is people send in their portfolios to me, and then from all of those portfolios I select three portfolios and then discuss them with my guests, and they give like a detailed feedback on that portfolio. We touch upon different aspects of the portfolio. We also sort of talk about their journey, their interviews, jobs, how is it like to work where they are working. So there are all of those conversations that come into the picture as well. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of guests, from Viviano. Then Mariana came in, which became one
Yeah.
of the most watched videos on the channel. There was Oli from Byak Engels Group, Chantel from ZHA, and then there was Steven from Show It Better.
Mhm.
And it has really helped me also connect with, in trying to create this content, it has helped me connect with so many more people around the world and just broaden uh, just my knowledge of architecture and just talking to them. And I think that then comes on to the channel itself.
Okay. Great. So since you have been discussing portfolios with all those people and also getting portfolios from people around the globe, so uh, tell me one thing very honestly, because this will be helpful for the kids who are right now in their, let's say, third year or fourth year and trying to make a portfolio. So, how has the definition of portfolio changed over the years? Like, if I were to ask you that, what is the advice that you want to give to all those young people, graduates, who are making portfolios, giving their day and night? So, one, the definition of portfolio, has it changed? And if it has changed, so what is your advice to these people? How should they design?
So For portfolios, when you say the definition, I think what has changed in a portfolio is the fact that um, first let's talk about architecture on a macro scale. Over the years, is that the profession itself has changed with especially newer technologies. Architecture is not what it used to be 20 years ago, and really not what it used to be 50 years ago. So in that sense, what it means to be an architect and work as an architect has also changed and evolved. And so I think in that sense, if you see on a macro level, when you talk about portfolios, uh, a portfolio has now become a way to showcase all of your skill sets, not just your designs. Where you obviously designing is important, but a lot of people hire employees not just for their ability to design, because that is something when they come into the office, they also help hone that craft and get used to how the office designs. So all of that happens, but they choose you for a specific skill set. Mariana got into ZHA because of Maya, because of her software skills and how she made what she made. Obviously, what she made was amazing, but the how was also important. And this is something that comes up in those portfolio reviews again and again. Is people are looking for something specific, and so I think in that sense, portfolios have evolved over the years to be a showcase of everything that you can do, from rendering, from graphic design to you show different scales of project. You show, obviously you show off your designing skills, but you show off much more than that. So that has changed on a broad level. But also I would say portfolios, how they've also changed, in one thing I tell my students to think about. Like I also do portfolio master classes for people, and we go into deep, like we talk about composition, we talk about color palettes, we talk about a lot of that. But there's one thing that I tell them is, especially when you are sending in portfolios and you're creating those first portfolios, especially after 2020, portfolios aren't printed anymore. You, even if it
Yeah.
were before that, it's not like you would send like a physical copy to the architect or you will go to the office. It's a great way, if you really love the office, to sort of go with a portfolio that is printed and talk to the principal architect. They're really impressed by that. But usually but that is if your portfolio is good, otherwise you just wasted that time. uh, but portfolios now are all digital, and so the viewing experience of a portfolio is now through a screen. And now you design your portfolio to be viewed on a screen, just like you design your projects. And this is what I tell people: one thing you need to remember, portfolios aren't a collage of everything that you can do. You just paste pictures here, 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 and be done with it. It is about composition, and you compose your portfolios just like you compose everything else in your project, just like you compose your boards for your presentations. Portfolios need to be sort of presented and composed in a way that it feels aesthetic to the person watching it as well. I think that is one of the most important things that I tell people.
Okay. So, and coming back to this whole idea about portfolio, which is once again content creation. So, irrespective of whether it's architecture, product design, or graphics or UX design. So, have you come across something as a portfolio or as a showcase of somebody's design, which you find is out of the world? Like, something, anything that you have come up, which is you think we haven't seen till ages.
If you want something like that, like something completely extraordinary, it was still done when it was done back in 2016. Um, and obviously, I've seen some amazing portfolios. There's been some amazing portfolios featured on the channel. And what I love is how unique they are, and
Hmm.
how different they are from each other. So there is no common thread between those portfolios. They're just all unique and impressive. And I think that is one of the best ways to make portfolios, is that represents you and your design skills. But if you want something completely out of the box, this was in 2016 when a guy made a rap video to as his application and a bit of his portfolio, and he sent it to a big Pyake English group.
Okay.
Uh, and at that time, there used to be like email addresses of people on
Hmm.
the website. So he sent it to like all the HRs, who then sent it to Byake, who really liked it, and he sent it everywhere else, and that video started going viral everywhere. And so,
Oh,
so like that was a completely out of the box thing that nobody's ever heard of or done since. But other than that, when it comes to portfolios, when you're applying for internships, when you're applying for jobs, there are certain guidelines that you keep in mind, which I also talk about in my portfolio masterclass. There are certain beats that you keep in mind, but again, there is no set uh, palette or set box that you put everything into. There are certain rules that you can follow to make it more aesthetic, to make it present better. But then at the end of the day, it still needs to represent you and your design style, and that is what makes the portfolio unique at the end of the day. How you bring all of that together, and that uniqueness is what I've seen in some of the best portfolios that I've seen on the channel.
okay. Great. Um, so enough of the portfolio and advices to the young people. So now one honest question, which you might tell that I'm from that old school who doesn't understand content. So this is just a very old school question, which is how do you make content creation work for you, like in terms of straightforward question, finance, and of course recognition. You have people know you, but in terms of finance, so how do you really make content work for you?
So for content creation, one thing you need to make sure you know is the fact that we, as architects and as designers, we have a tendency to view everything through this architects and designers lens and just see it in that context. But it's not. Content creation as a job is a job all over the world, and people do it for different things. People do it for fashion. People do it for um, cars. People, there are as many niches as you can think of. People are creating content for it, and architecture being one of them. In content creation, how you make money, there are various different sources, and even companies like Meta, companies like uh, TikTok, which is not in India anymore, but there are loads of companies that are also pushing in creator funds to fund people who create content. But basically, how you make money, I'll talk about YouTube, for example. um, every time you see an ad on my video, I get 55% from that ad, and YouTube gets 45% from that ad. And that is the basics of how you make money on YouTube. But eventually the goal, and this comes with content creation, which is happening with my channel as it is growing more and more, is the fact that you now have an audience who loves to watch you, who loves to watch your content, who comes back for your content week after week. And to that audience now, that is an audience that people can come to you to promote something to. And that is the majority way how all content creators around the world make money, is through sponsorship deals. And that starts from something very basic, and for me, like, it till date starts from like, it's about workshop courses. It's still architecture related that people come in. But then there are also companies like Skillshare, like Brilliant, who come in because every time there's an educational content, these kind of companies come to you and pay you loads and loads of money, because you have a great reach. And so that is how it works. How it works is you're building an audience, and then using that platform, you can market and market a lot of products. And you can also then, if you want to, like, venture out into creating your own products, your own work. Like, I have my own workshops that I put forward to people. So that comes into the picture. Then there is also, you can do merch, which a lot of content creators do. And so this content creation job in general all over the world has, and as it is going forward, it's getting easier and easier because the sources of income are increasing, because loads of platforms want to boost creators on it so that people remain engaged on that platform. So that is how the finances of this works. And it works now. I would tell you that it didn't work as well when I started. For the longest time, I didn't get any checks from YouTube or any transfers from YouTube, because I didn't even hit the $100 limit that they require for your transfer, and which is not, obviously not the case now. But and that is why I had a job aside from what I did to help. And it was only after I knew that my uh, that YouTube could sustain me just like my job is doing, is when I finally switched over to just creating content on YouTube and Instagram. It took a while, but it's all about building that audience.
So, so how do you deal? Because we have been talking about this uh, whole issue of starting off. Let's say somebody wants to start off and taking it as a full-time career, like you have done it. So, what are these moments of disappointment, and how do you deal with it? Like when you don't get hits, when you don't get views, when there is a very lean period in this kind of profession. So, how do you deal with it?
It goes to a larger, how do you deal with any business going through that lean period? There is you have to get creative about your solutions. If
Mhm.
Because one of the best things here, unlike a lot of other businesses where there are so many factors, if you're in an architectural practice, there might be periods where you're not getting projects. If you're in any profession, when you're doing a job, it's different. But when you're the owner of the enterprise, when it's your business, that you have to pay the salaries. There are loads of factors that come in where your products might not be selling, where something is not going right. There are those periods that come into every venture that you go into, and YouTube being one of them. The difference is, there are a lot of external factors that might be out of your hand. Here, this is solely not happening because uh, you one, either you've not built a community, two, you have, it's about the quality of the content you're putting out, and three, how consistently are you putting out that content. And these three majorly define everything on every social media platform. And so the solution then becomes quite simple, in that you just have to be creative with what you do, and just try more things. Social media today is just about trying different things, and some of them work out, some of them don't work out. But it's just about being on it. But just like any other business, there will be uh, days or some videos that might not work, which happens on my channel also. But if I'm sad, I'm sad for it, like sad about it for like half a day. Because now that I'm doing it full time, I don't have the luxury to mope about it for a week. If it didn't work, it didn't work. You move on to the next project that you know will work, and you take up an even more interesting topic from what you did before. You try something better, you up your skills in terms of the edit that you put in. And you, most of the time when you do this consistently, you see the results. It is just like any other thing where you have to keep showing up again and again, regardless whether you want to go to the gym today or not. You have to get up in the morning and go if you want to consistently see those results. And social media works in a similar way.
So, so then on those days, and probably on other good days also. So, where do you get these ideas of creating content? For example, I was going through your whole list. So, at some point of a time, you were trying to make videos where you're trying to take people into this whole idea of 5 topics on thesis in architecture. Then from that to reviews on portfolio to having conversation with architects to documenting about some of your vlogs and NFT metaverse. So how does this whole idea come in? Where do you get those ideas?
So yeah, I try a lot of different things on my channel, and I think some people have told me this is one of the reasons why they like my channel, is because I do so many different things, which might not cater to everybody, all of my audience. But like some people like something, some people like something. I like doing all of them, is why I still do it. One is also, I think my content is evolving as I'm growing up. Is when I was younger, my content was much more geared towards students than it is now. And then when I was fresh out of college, my content was much more geared towards fresh graduates. And then as I'm growing up, my content is just getting, of course, it's still about all of that, but then it's also about just exploring architecture. And that is why the Yeah, apologies. All right. So
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
mean, now it is much more about exploring so much, seeing the vastness of within the field of architecture and what all there is, and that is why there are so many different topics. There are documentaries that I make every month about a different architect, and Tony Gaudi was the last documentary that
Yeah.
I made, and so there is now a lot more I sort of experiment with the ideas for that. It is funny. This is one of the reasons why I call myself blessed dark. The word blessed in it is it is very coincidental how a lot of topics come to me, and how a lot of it feels like I generally feel like the topics are coming to me, and it's just about exploration. I'm sometimes reading about something. I'm talking to a lot of my friends who are still studying in universities abroad, so they talk to me about topics.
Mhm.
Recently, one of my friends, he has this virtual stage. He has a design company called Suck and Blimp, and he last week had uh, a talk on his stage where he invited Neil Leach, and he was talking about AI and architecture, and what is the correlation, what will happen in the future. And so I interviewed him today morning to create my next video because I was so impressed and so intrigued by what he said. So those ideas sort of there's a whole list that I have with me about things that I want to explore, but there are also ideas that just keep coming to me, and all of that I think just comes from curiosity. It's just wanting to know something more, something, being curious about little things, and then picking those things. And at
Yeah.
this point in my YouTube journey, um, I think people appreciate me sort of exploring those different areas. For example, a video on why do architects wear black so
Yeah.
much. So this is not something that you need to watch. Like it's pure entertainment. But again, because of the audience that I've built, because of the content that I create, they like such topics and sort of engage with it a lot. So again, this was not what I was doing years before, because years before it was about building that audience, and my mindset was also very different. It was very student driven. So I think a lot of these factors just come into place, and my ideas just come from curiosity, just from reading, talking to people, just exploring the internet.
So, um, but still, I think there would be a lot of background work that you will be putting in order to make that 15, 20, or 30 minutes video,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It
And
doesn't
Tony
come like,
Body, I got the video because I first collect information. It was like a
Mhm.
50-page Word document that I had to first read through the entire thing and then condense it into like 4 pages, like his
Yeah.
entire life story. And you can't just condense it in a way that you just write pointers about his life. You still need to create a narrative. You still, which you get better at, when you are sort of doing it for a while. You
Mm.
learn how to pick up those beats, and especially even you do it while writing, and then you do it while shooting, and then you complete it while you're editing. So it takes me a lot of time. Like Antony Gaudi video took me like a whole week of just constantly working, getting up every day, working till night, uh, and then it came out to be what it did.
Yeah. So, tell me if, or I could ask you in this way that tell me something that you wish somebody had told you 5, 6 years ago related to this field of content creation that you would like to tell me, like some kind of a trade secret or something like that. It's for
About
the audience, of course. Yeah.
yeah. So about content creation, to be honest, I do, and this I'd understood a long time back. So I not 5 years ago, but I understood it quite a while back. Is the fact that um, people always it is about consistently showing up, and it is about consistently creating that quality within your uh, within whatever it is that you do. The thing is, there are very few. There is this thing, if Lily Singh herself, like the YouTuber that I was talking about at the start, who had asked her father for a year, she had said, if your whole career is only based on one video going viral, you're standing on a building that is only built on this single pole, and there's no foundation. There are no more columns there to help you up. And obviously that happens. Your some video goes viral, and it feels like an overnight thing for a lot of people, but what actually happens is they've been working consistently for a long time. And just like with any other thing, it's more volatile with social media, but it's still about consistently putting in the effort each and every whatever frequency you choose. I now do it daily, different for Instagram, different for YouTube. um, because I have the bandwidth too now. But it is about putting in that consistency, putting in that quality, and that is how you do it on social media. You keep building, you keep building, you keep building, and then slowly some of your videos will start going viral, and then you still keep building, you keep building, you keep building, and slowly you will see your audience just grows as you keep building forward. But it is about consistency, it is about quality, which increases over time. Quality, like, don't try to be perfect when you're starting. If you're going to the gym, I will not go and pick up like a whole rod with loads of weights attached. I won't even be able to pick it up. I start at the pace that I start with. It might just be a rod without any weights to start with that. So that quality would come, and you start off with what you can start off with. And slowly, you don't care about the equipment. I did not start with like this camera, which has a great quality where you can even see everything that is happening on my skin right now. But I started with a very different, smaller camera. Dubai Expo, my camera broke, and so I just picked out my phone and started creating content on my phone. In that sense, it is not just about the equipment, the lighting, because all of that was not there at Dubai Expo as well. And I was just creating everything I did with my phone. So at the end of the day, it doesn't just remain about the equipment, and all of these are add-ons, but it still needs to be about the content at the core, and consistency, quality. Just put it into your content and it works.
So I think this would be my last question that I'd really like to ask you. So two of your videos, they are talking about NFT, metaverse, and so one is, do you think like other people ask, do you think it is just a craze, or will it take us by storm? And the second, how important is it for us as designers to recognize and respect this whole idea of metaverse and NFT? I know they are two very different things, but since it's the buzz of the
Yeah.
town right now, so that's the reason why I'm asking both of them at one go.
So for metaverse and NFT, again, I would again invite people to again go from that smaller scale of a designer and architect to a broader scale of the world, and just a broader perspective of the world. It is coming to prominence all over the world. It is not, and just seeing it through the lens of architecture would just be narrowing your vision. So if you see NFTs, and there's still a lot of changes that have to go within the whole platforms and everything that will come up. But it is coming up all over the world, and it would be foolish to just say that it wouldn't change anything for architects. Because one of the things I'll tell you, uh, as I talked in the videos as well, is uh, architects have a skill set of designing fantastic forms, which would be one of the key points of this new metaverse, these virtual spaces that you be in. Now you can sort of experiment everything that you wanted to experiment in real life, but you can do it out there. The results are much quicker. You can change things, you can't change things like on a site. So all of that, you would see a lot of especially young people gravitate towards that in the future, where they would want to and with the craze that is right now, you see people like Snoop Dogg, people like huge celebrities are investing and sort of buying this so-called digital land, which is basically some parcels on the internet. and they're building things on it, and so they're looking to hire people who can create those. So I think there'll be a shift within the profession that might come, especially for the younger generation who will start gravitating towards this more. uh,
Yeah.
that's again not to say that it will completely change the field of architecture and bilkul everything will become virtual. Of course, they're not going to happen. You're still going to have a world around you. As long as there's a built environment around you, there will be people. You will need people who design that, which are architects. Um, so it won't change the profession traditionally how it is, but I do feel like, especially for the young people, and in this video, I also talk about this new profession of a virtual architect might coming up in the
Mm.
future, and it might come up as a separate profession in itself, a separate profession from an architect, because there are a lot of things that you need to consider as an architect that you do not even need to care about as a virtual architect. Accessibility is not an issue in architecture, in a virtual space. There are bylaws, anything, complex geometries, all of these do not matter in a virtual world. For that matter, gravity does not matter in the virtual world, although every platform has it for now. uh, so this new world, a virtual one, would be just about experimentation, and it will draw a lot of ZHA. Patrick Schumacher is working constantly towards the metaverse. He's
Yeah,
exploring
he is
different
doing
new
a
collaborations.
lot of
Yeah,
things.
he even collaborated with PUBG, a gaming software, to create buildings within PUBG. So you see a lot of these cross collaborations happening, and I would say, rather than just uh, pushing it aside as something that kids do or something that doesn't matter. For example, TikTok, which is what people push it aside as today, not in India but abroad. When you see, or Instagram for that matter, Instagram for the longest time was young people just share photos. Now every business almost has an Instagram page. A lot of them just work through Instagram. They don't have physical stores, or they might not even have websites. They're just working via Instagram. So it has transformed into this phenomenal tool from what it was years back. And so, in how I see it, it's about architects. A lot of them are willing, and should more of them should be willing to just experiment, try newer things within this metaverse, and not to completely dismiss it, not to put it and make it much bigger than it is right now, because right now it's at a very preliminary stage. But why not just experiment with it? Architects experiment with fashion, architects experiment with product design, architects experiments with a lot of, those loads of architects experiment with a lot of things. Why not experiment with something that is digitally created? And that also includes NFTs, just how you create products. Architects have, they can create NFTs which would also sell for, if Zaha were alive today and she would create an NFT, I'm sure it will sell for a lot, like loads and loads of money. So again, because Zaha built herself into a brand name. uh, uh, so yeah, I think the future is changing, and of course you don't just jump ship and say I am not an architect anymore and I'll just do this. But it is about being open to experimentation, open to new ideas, um, not just holding on to what you have, but also being open to try something new.
Yeah. So I think this. Then don't you think at some point of a time uh, our design education should also accept this and probably we make our people think that there is a field which you only explore after you pass out from that cliched curriculum of design. Maybe you could introduce something. Who knows? A course regarding content creation is really helpful for architects, designers, in a way, when they move forward in their life.
For when we especially talk about education, even before all of this, even before content creation, even before NFTs, the metaverse, I still feel like the courses that are the education of architecture is far behind what the practice really is. Uh, there is still um it has not been updated as fast as it is changing. And so we still study a lot about techniques, theories, materials, a lot of things that it is good to know about history of architecture, but we only look back. We don't look around. And I think that is where uh, the architecture education sort of lacks, is people are not talking about the technologies of today. People are not talking about the materials of today. People are not talking about theories of today. The last thing, even in architecture school, I think we read about was uh, uh, I think we came up till modern architecture and maybe postmodern architecture, post which we stopped. But there has been so much more that has happened beyond that as well. So and what is happening today, and with loads of different architects. So architecture education, I think the first step would be updating itself to the present, and then looking towards the future. But yes, for sure. I don't know if a course about content creation within architecture might just be fruitful or not, because I still believe in India you take 5 years just to get a bachelor's degree, which is not the case in the rest of the world. Usually, if a course is going for 5 years, like the architecture course, you come out with a master's degree in architecture, which I've realized for
Yeah.
loads of countries around the world. So I genuinely think we are right now just studying a lot more, and just adding more courses on would not be the solution. But yeah, just to diversify the course, and as soon as I think hopefully as practices start evolving and incorporating a lot more changes into themselves, the I think the academic institutions will or should follow, uh, to update themselves, to prep their children. I was talking to Neil Leach, that I was telling you about as well, and he said when he was studying at Oxford in 1980, his professors had detested computers, and so they banned computers from their whole studio. And all that did was it created a whole batch of architects that were unhireable, because they didn't have the skills that were required by a lot of people. So you can keep holding on to the past and these glory days, but the thing is, if you're prepping people for a career 5 years from now, it needs to look into account, or take into account, um, what all techno if not 5 years from now, at least what all is happening today, and equip them with all of that, so that they can be ready for their careers ahead. And this ties into learning all the digital skills, different softwares, experimentation, and not just sticking to just experimenting with uh, pen and paper, and just create you can create all the beautiful things that you want, but at the end of the day, again, as I said, the portfolios, people look for specific skill sets, and if you don't have those skill sets, they don't hire you, no matter how great a designer you are. So those skill sets are also important, and I think education institutions should be proactive in trying to provide those.
Okay. So, Rishabh, just before we end this session, I would like to introduce you to Professor Sasi Menon. He is our Dean School of Design, and he's an ID alumnus. So, hi, sir. Uh,
Hello.
yeah.
Hi, it was
So,
it
any
was
questions?
really amazing listening to you. I think this is probably the first time that we, like you said, the old notions of what something should be and what it was and the legacy, how that those things are changing in today's world so fast, and how education needs to actually tune into what's happening later rather than reliving what is there in the past. So it was really, really amazing to listen to you. And while we were talking, I was just, a few links I've posted in our chat here. It was very interesting to see this metaverse.properties where they're actually selling, buying, and selling. It's like a property portal on the metaverse, right?
Yeah.
So so it's really amazing to hear you. And I think our students, because this video will be available on our channel, also on the YouTube channel, our own channel, so we'll also hope that more students will listen to you and more people will be able to hear you, what you said. And when I say hear you, doesn't mean what you said, but what you actually meant, you know. So, with that statement, no, I hear you. So I think we hope they will hear you, what you said. And it's really, really exciting. I think it's a lot of people have the feeling that the world is kind of crumbling and going down the drain here and there. But I don't personally believe that. I'm personally, I am very positive in my outlook, and I feel we should be ready to embrace the change in the way that we are comfortable with, not in uncomfortable ways. And I think you really sort of explain that the way your own sort of career and your own work has evolved from what it was probably when you started off to what it is now. I think that itself is a great example of how things can change and we can embrace that change.
For
So
sure.
it was really nice listening to you. It was one of the best sessions we have had in a long, long time,
Thank
and
you
we
so much.
hope you can uh, come here also sometimes. Though I know you are the video man, you are the, you are the
Yeah.
screen man, but maybe we would like to see you in person as well sometime.
Sure.
So wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much for taking the time out. And on behalf of everybody, I would like to, and the Sushant University, I would like to really, really thank you for taking your time out and giving so much inputs to our students and all the viewers that will ultimately be seeing this video.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you,
Over to you,
Rishabh.
Pritam.
It was nice talking. Yeah.
Same here,
So
sir.
yeah, thank you. And probably yeah, let's meet in person. It has been like quite long we haven't
Yes.
met.
Yeah.
Let's meet in person. Let's meet in Gurgaon at least, not
Yeah.
in
For
Jaipur.
sure.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.